I should also mention that Councillor Martin has declared his absence, as has Councillor Siebentrit. In their absence, we will be withdrawing the motions and questions that he put on notice to be recycled in to the next council meeting.
The questions can continue, can't they, Your Worship?
I'm sorry, I didn't...
The questions can continue.
A question? Yes, what is the question?
No, the questions don't need to be withdrawn. Just the motions, I would suggest.
Sorry, we have some confidential items as well that have to be pulled on, so we can withdraw those. That's the ruling. Thank you. Can I ask someone to confirm our minutes? Moved by Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Abrahimzadeh. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to declare a conflict of interest? Councillor Elliott?
Very briefly, Lord Mayor, I wish to declare a general conflict of interest in relation to the petition to be received, but noting that it is only to be received, I do wish to declare that I was a signatory of that petition.
Have we recorded that? Thank you very much, Councillor. We're now going to move on to the reports for Council.
Your Worship, item 20.1.
I'm sorry?
I have a conflict in relation to item 20.1.
Thank you. That item's been withdrawn, Councillor, so that, but we note your conflict again. I should explain the process that's going to be adopted next in terms of the public hearing for our budget. We open this for an hour of discussion if anybody wishes to come from the gallery to present a view. This is in accordance with section 123, section 3 and 4 of the Local Government Act 1999. It's an opportunity for a hearing in relation to our draft annual business plan and budget. If we record the opening of this round of discussion, can I see by a show of hands, does anyone in the audience wish to discuss the budget? No? We'll record the start then as 5:38, and there'll be an opportunity if anybody wishes to speak in the next hour to do so. It's a 5-minute opportunity, and we look forward to anyone perhaps appearing later. Councillor Kouros.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, just procedural. Do we need to move this item or?
No? Well, we will when they have spoken. The motion for item 9.1 is that we acknowledge those appearing before Council to make a submission, but nobody's arising. If nobody comes, we'll note that this element was open to the public, but nobody presented themselves, so it will be a different motion. Thank you. However, we do have item 9.2. Now, I'll draw your attention to the fact that I am named in this item, and therefore I'd like to vacate the chair for part 2 of the motion, but I think that parts 1, 3 and 4 I don't have a conflict with. So is there any debate on that? Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Noon. Is there any discussion? We'd have to see if they're in part 4, if there are any councillors who've expressed an interest. Councillor Elliott's expressed interest.
I'll rise to speak. Sorry, I do note that Councillor Cross did indicate she had a question, which I hope she can go straight to her after I've done speaking. But I'll speak in favour of the motion. I think it's important for us to reciprocate by accepting the invitation that's been extended to us very kindly and very graciously after receiving the delegation from Penang late last year. But relating to point 4, I'd like to note that given my connection through my past career as an Air Force intelligence analyst and my time spent at Penang, that I would like to express my interest in joining the delegation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kouros.
My question, just as Lord Mayor, just a clarification and just so I can hear from administration, the person that is elected to go to join the delegation, you're saying that it's at their own expense, and we are clarifying flights, accommodation, daily expenses, all of that is at their own expense?
I think that item 4 says that. I don't know if it can be clarified any further.
I just want a verbal clarification. Is that what we're talking about in their expense?
Through the presiding member, apart from the normal costs of the Lord Mayor's attendance, the attendance of all other parties would be at their own expense.
Unless the council decided otherwise, of course. At the moment, there'll just be one person going, I understand, but there may be some opportunities because, as you would have noticed in the report, it coincides with the planning conference, and there may be some opportunity for people involved in the planning department where there's another budget in any case. But that's been left open for the moment. So if there's no other debates, I ask that we take a vote on 1, 3 and 4, then I will vacate the chair for part 2. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Excuse me, members, I will vacate the chair, and could I ask the Deputy Lord Mayor to sit in my place?
Thank you, members. I will seek a mover and a seconder for part 2 of the motion, please. Moved by Councillor Abrahimzadeh, seconded by Councillor Noon. Does anyone wish to speak on that matter? Mover or seconder? No? Anyone else? We'll go to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Moved unanimously. Thank you.
Now we're moving on to our schedule of deputations. Could we scroll up to 10.1? Dr. Yulia Gilbert wishes to speak to us. I'm not sure if she's here. Oh, yes, about West Terrace and Sturt Street intersection. Further on in the agenda, we have your petition, which is very extensive. Thank you very much. We have 5 minutes for you to speak, and if you can finish your discussion in that time, we'd be grateful. Otherwise, we'll give you a few more minutes afterwards. So please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
This.
In support of the proposed upgrades to the intersection of West Terrace and Sturt Street, I would like to start with a quick overview of the trends around children's travel patterns in Australia. Despite their preference for walking and cycling, the predominant form of travel to and from school for most Australian children remains the car. Only about 25% of Australian children walk or cycle to school. This compares to 98% in Japan, 87% in the Netherlands, and 52% in England. When a society heavily relies on cars to transport children to their everyday destinations, some very significant and disturbing issues emerge. This is because cars and car drivers directly disrupt children's basic human rights in many ways. In addition to a range of health problems due to noise and air pollution, car-based mobilities limit the opportunities for physical activity, unstructured play, social interaction, and developing social capital, which are all essential for children's physical, social, and mental development. But most importantly, and very sadly, car drivers kill or injure people. Road traffic crashes, in fact, are the leading cause of death for children and young adults across the world. And Adelaide is not immune to this problem, as we had some very tragic reminders last year. In March 2023, a truck driver hit 2 16-year-olds who were crossing the street in front of their school, Marryatville High School. Both were rushed to hospital with serious injuries. 3 months later, a driver of a four-wheel drive hit a 38-year-old woman and her 6-year-old daughter who were crossing the street in front of their school, St. Aloysius College. The woman was pinned under the car. The 6-year-old was also dragged under the car and pulled out by another parent. Based on my own PhD research project and many others' work before me, I would like to highlight 2 things about these incidents. Firstly, these incidents are not accidents and don't occur in isolation. They are completely preventable with some appropriate interventions like the one being presented in the petition, which seeks to improve the safety at the West Terrace and Sturt Street intersection for families at Sturt Street Primary and the wider community. Secondly, these incidents underscore why so many parents drive their children to school. This reason is traffic danger and the associated fear of the possibility of Marriottville High School or St. Aloysius College crashes involving their own children. Traffic danger is why so many parents resort to driving, even if they prefer alternative forms of transport, which are healthier and better for their children. The current state of the West Terrace and Sturt Street intersection is extremely hostile for anyone who tries to walk, ride a bike, or use public transport. These conditions can be significantly improved by implementing the proposed upgrades and slower speed limits in the petition. Such upgrades are also critical to communicate that we as a society care about our children's safety and that we respect their basic right to freely and safely access their schools. If we continue neglecting such things, the number of children being driven to school will continue increasing with cascading negative effects on this beautiful city and its community. And the tragedies like the SAC one will unfortunately repeat. Thank you so much for your time.
Received the petition containing 233 signatures distributed as a separate item. It's in our file. Would someone moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Abrahimzadeh? All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Deputy
Lord Mayor, with the permission of the Chamber, I'd like to propose a motion without
Can
notice.
I just seek leave of the Chamber? May we bring forward the motion so that the gallery doesn't have to retain
It depends what
here.
the motion is.
So the motion
Leave sought?
would read,
Have we sought, do we give leave to bring forward the item?
Bring forward which item?
motion without notice.
I'm sorry?
But it depends what the motion is. Some of us haven't been given notice of what the motion is, so how do we know if we agree to it if we don't know what the motion is?
I'm seeking leave to bring forward the motions without notice. You can guess what it is. Thank you. Councillor Abrahimzadeh, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you. So I move that administration prepare a report on the upgrading of the intersection on West Terrace and Sturt Street. Including, and then I'd use the exact bullet points from the executive summary of the petition itself, if that's easier rather than me writing it out.
Well, I think that it's obvious what it's referring to. I think that the administration will get the gist of this. To make it simple, we could have a full stop there.
Happy with that, Lord
Because
Mayor?
we know what it's for, and the administration are nodding at me, so...
Happy with that, Lord Mayor, and I would seek a seconder. Thank you.
Councillor Abrahimzadeh, did you wish to speak? No. Any other discussion? You were a seconder, weren't you, Councillor? I was. Yes. Councillor Abrahimzadeh seconded. Yes.
I'm just looking at the petition and what is what the community requires. Some of these need to be in consultation with a state government, correct?
We have no power to carry out all the amendments, but we'll get that in the report. Well, these are beyond our power. Some of them are ultra vires. That's why I edited the motion not to include.
So shouldn't the motion actually reflect that? Because it looks
I think the administration know which is ultra vires in terms of the state government. It's a very complicated issue and people deserve to have it explained properly.
So we're asking for a report which we're going to present to the state government which we have no power to implement.
No, we're not presenting it to anyone. It's a report that will come back to council.
And what do we then do with that? Sorry, Lord Mayor.
Well, we see what's within our power. As you know, Councillor Martin moved a motion a few months ago to talk about upgrading school safety, and
Yes.
initially that was St Aloysius, and then it was to move on to Sturt Street. So there was a view that the city schools did require upgrades.
Sure, Lord Mayor, the advocacy motions, but this is actually asking the council administration to prepare a report of the upgrading of the intersection. It's no advocacy to asking the state government to come on board in regards to this.
Well, we can do that when we get the report. I welcome you to vote against it if you don't like the wording.
Well, Lord Mayor, it only just Lord Mayor, I'll speak to it.
Please stand up and speak.
I don't have a problem with this motion. What I do have a problem, Lord Mayor, is with our procedures and the expectations from the community. And I have no problem with the report coming into council, but I would like the community to understand that it's not within our powers to change anything within what we're seeking here. And I welcome administration to prepare a report, but then I would like to see where that would go afterwards. And if that's going to be an advocacy piece with a report, if that's where we're going to direct it, that's fine. That's the line of my questions. It doesn't mean that I'm against it. It just means that we need to meet community expectation.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'm happy to speak to it. Yeah, I agree. I think that we've received 233 signatures. What we can and can't do in relation to the petition should be explored by the administration, so we actually have that advice in full and what our powers are and aren't. So I don't think this motion does much. I would much prefer to see a holistic report in terms of what the council can and can't do in relation to the matters raised in the petition, and just so we're aware of what our powers are, and then if from there we determine that there's merit to that, or if it's even possible, generally speaking, whether we form an advocate position to then write to the state government or not on all of the issues of the petition. I don't like that we would abandon most of what the petitioners are asking. Some potentially we could advocate for and some we can't. So I'll be voting against it on that. I'm happy to propose an alternative motion that deals properly with the issues of the petitioners.
Thank you very much. Councillor Elliott?
A question, Lord Mayor, whether I can request an undertaking for this report process to include the petitioners so that we can actually directly engage their feedback.
I'm sure that, judging by the nods from Mr McCready, he intends to do that.
Thank you very much.
So are you going to sum up, Deputy
Yes,
Lord
thank you, Lord Mayor. I appreciate my colleagues' concerns. There are some things in this that are within our power, and there's also things that aren't within our power, and I acknowledge that, which is why I seek the report as well, so we have clarity on what we can do and what we can't do, and we can take those next steps. If those next steps involve us making changes from within the council, or for those things outside our power for us to be able to advocate to the state government. A report is the first step, so we understand what the lay of the land is. So I share the concerns of my colleagues, but I read this, I understand this as answering those said concerns, especially your own, Councillor Davis. We should get this information back in this report, and that's why I've asked for this report. I would hope everyone in the chamber can support this, take the next step forward, and hopefully see a bit of a safer street, safer West Terrace for kids and for the locals. Thank you.
All those against? That's carried. Thank you.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, would you mind using your microphone?
Acting
I'm happy to move it on block, Lord Mayor.
amend any parts of this? Councillor Noon. Which one are you interested in, Councillor?
I do have an amendment for item 7.2, which is the Christmas Festival Planning 2024.
Okay. Councillor Ho, which ones were you interested in? Part 1. So can we take 7.4 and 7.5 on block, unless there's a dissenting view? Oh, 7.3, I apologise, yes. 7.3, 7.4 and 7.5. Are you seconded, Councillor Abrahimzadeh? Yes. Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. So we'll go to 7.1. Councillor Ho, do you wish to amend that or just speak to it?
Well, thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll keep it brief. Firstly, I'd like to thank the administration for their efforts in establishing this role, this bilingual community officer position, and to everyone who actually provide all the supports.
Councillor, I don't wish to get in the way of you speaking. Do you want to move the motion?
Yes, please.
Yes, sorry, moved and seconded by Councillor Abrahimzadeh. Sorry, please carry on.
Yeah, because during the committee meeting last week, especially from those comments made by Councillor Abrahimzadeh as well as Councillor Noon, I think it would be necessary for me to highlight the needs. I think it's necessary for me to kind of like provide a comprehensive overview on this new role. Back into 2019, a report from our administration actually know that approximately about 27.5% of our residents in the city of Adelaide speak Mandarin at home. Many of them face significant challenges with English, and to address this matter, with the endorsement of the former council, we initiated a trial by placing 2 bilingual individuals in our customer center. One from mainland China who speaks Mandarin, the other one from Hong Kong who speaks Cantonese. They're both international students. Unfortunately, the trial revealed that only 7 people actually use the service in 6 months' time. So that means we have not used our resource in an efficient way. Therefore, once the trial finished, the service has been discontinued. And then from 2020, in response to a sharp increase in crime incidents in Chinatown, we actually conduct a safety audit in the Market District as well as Chinatown area with strong support from the former council. This initiative was well received by the community. Concurrently, we collaborate. We work with SAPO together to employ a bilingual community liaison officer as well as a frontline police officer that speaks Mandarin. However, the reality is we find it on one hand, SAPO find it very difficult to recruit a frontline police officer that speaks Mandarin, and it's even harder to encourage them to station in the CBD. At the same time, we found that from our side, it's almost impossible to recruit anyone can fit the community safety officer position because not many Chinese locally have any policing experience. Therefore, we have to downgrade the position to community liaison officer because in this case, once we have the position in place, the community, will have a single point of contact to work together with council. So that was the background, and it didn't happen in one day. It actually took about 3 years for us to come to this point of time. So I'd really like to thank the administration over the last 3 years for all their efforts. Thank you, Lord Mayor. For all their efforts, because I know it is not easy, not just happening within this council here. There's a lot of work that council, we have to work with SAPO, with SAPO to make this work. And now, in early 2024, finally, SAPO have recruited 3 frontline police officers that speaks Mandarin, even though none of them is now stationed in the city of Adelaide. Hopefully, in the future, we will have someone stationed in Adelaide. But the reality here is the community liaison officer has been really popular to us and has done a lot of work for our community. But it does not diminish the need of a community safety officer. I really like to see that we are able to fulfill this role within this term of council. And yeah, again, thank you for everyone's support, not just the former council, but also all the council members here today. It wasn't easy for us, but our community really needs this person. Thank you.
Dissenting view, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Can I just ask again if members of the gallery wish to speak about our budget? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is Councillor Noon, who wishes to discuss 7.2. Oh, you have an amendment?
Yep, I have an amendment, and first of all, I want to commend Councillor Martin on putting this this recommendation forward at the committee. And my understanding of this particular recommendation was the intention was to get everyone together and to ensure that we maximise our resources. The initiative aims to synchronise efforts amongst various entities to enhance the Christmas experience within the city. By pooling resources and expertise, we can ensure a coordinated approach that maximises the impact of festival activities and attractions, fostering a vibrant and inclusive holiday atmosphere for residents and visitors alike. So that's really number one. So it's really sort of going, okay, I know there was discussion around getting sort of consultants.
Councillor, can I just interrupt your flow to ask if there's a seconder?
Oh, yeah.
Deputy Lord Mayor, thank you.
Getting consultants. In the 24-25 budget, I know that we've cut a lot of the consultants out of our budget. So why introduce consultants when we haven't explored our skills within our organisation? So I actually think if we actually get the AIDA, ACMA, the Rundle Mall management, and there might be other stakeholders together on this project, then I think that we're going to come up with something that's quite amazing, because I know that we actually have the skills within our organisation to do this. As for point number 3, I have a real issue actually, and I saw the article in the paper of the Advertiser, and they were talking about how dull our tree was, and of course they had 4 pics of trees from, I think it was New York, Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, and 2 of them was actually a pic of a tree at night. Now, if we actually took a pic of our tree at night, we would go, oh my God, this tree is better than all the other trees. So the issue is, I would hate to see this tree that we have on landfill without undergoing an investigation to see if we can turn it into something that's more suitable for day as well. Because at night, and I know there was a resident that wrote into the Advertiser yesterday saying how wonderful it is at night time, and it is. There are crowds that go down at night, and it's a community gathering, and it's fantastic. But at day it looks drab. It does look pretty ordinary. So first of all, I'd like to see, before we chuck it on the landfill, I'd actually like to see an investigation done to see what we can do with all the technology in the world, to see what we can do to bring that, live it up, bring it to life in the day. And I really recommend that we actually don't just throw away what we already have. So this is what this motion is. It's very much about trying to save money as well, because really when you actually think of the cost of a new tree, when you actually think of the cost of consultants, all of that sort of thing, I'd rather actually give that extra money that we could have to the homelessness. And at the end of the day, if we can actually use our own resources, if we can actually use our existing tree, and our own resources will come up with some sort of plan to enliven our, there might be replacement of decks, there might be all sorts of things, but at least we're not actually spending money that we don't have to in this very tight budget year that we actually have, that we all know about.
Is there anyone speaking on this against or for? Councillor Kouros.
This is a completely different motion that Councillor Martin amended at the committee. He was asking for a Christmas expert. But I remember from the report the draft 4-year Christmas City Action Plan was going to be in the discussion piece. It did talk about discussion in collaboration with our key stakeholders being AIDA, ACMA and Rundle Mall Management. That was already in train, I believe, with the development of the City Action Plan. If it makes the mover feel better to have that in writing there together with the motion, then I'm willing to accept that. I also understand that from discussions with the administration, the tree is going to be coming up for us to make a decision on, and that we're going to be having a discussion anyway in regards to how much life it has left, what we can do with it, whether we need to buy another one, how much it will cost, how much it will cost to fix. I think that's already in train anyway. So all of these things are already all happening. If it pleases the mover for me to vote for it, just to endorse that we are already doing this, then I'm happy to vote for it, but it's all already in train.
There's no need to interject. Deputy Lord Mayor, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Abraham Zadeh.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I don't have any particular concerns, but I was actually going to highlight what Councillor Couros just touched on, and that is that I think for us here in the Chamber, Lord Mayor, we just need to be, we need to be clear about who stakeholders are, and when we identify our subsidiaries, I just wonder whether if they're actually captured under staff or whether if they're identified as stakeholders. And my reading of it is, when I read the committee agenda papers, in the consultation part, it says internal consultation has occurred with AIDA, ACMA and City Operations in writing this report. So one has already been done. I don't know why we want to do it again, but yeah, sometimes this chamber tends to do things over and over again and expect different results. There is a particular way that you can describe that that approach. And number 3 has been in making, and if anything, I think about 4 years ago, Councillor Couros started this whole conversation about Christmas in the city and what we can do to improve the visitor experience here in the city. And a fair bit of work has been done over the past 4 years. I won't be supportive of this just because I see it as work that's already been done. I commend the mover on bringing it into the chamber, worth a shot, but why do the same thing over and over again and expect different results?
DLM, did you wish to comment?
I will offer a slight retort, if only because we have to fill a bit of time till 6:38. I welcome...
You don't have to keep speaking till 6:38.
Not me personally, Lord Mayor. I would never inflict that upon people. Just to commend the motion, I think this is a good compromise. If indeed it is what the objectors are saying, it is a repetition of something that is already happening, then there is nothing lost by this motion. But I do think the councillor has touched on some key points that has been expressed by our community, improvements that I would also like to see happen. So therefore, I would encourage all members to support this, move forward together as one.
To say that I have consulted with AIDA and they were very supportive of this, actually. So I think having it really spelt out is really important, because I don't trust what just was written there in 1 and 2 without fleshing it out and making sure that that's what we're going to actually do. And I had not heard anything about all I had heard was a new Christmas tree and ditch the old one. So this is ensuring that that's not going to happen until the investigation actually happens. So I haven't heard, this does not actually say to me that this has actually happened and is happening. This is ensuring that it will happen. So that's why I put this forward.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favour? All those in favour of Councillor Noon's motion? Are those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. I'll ask again if anybody in the gallery would like to comment on our budget. Thank you so much. Could I ask you to come forward and identify yourself for our records? We would like you to speak for 5 minutes or a shorter time if you want to, and explain the issue that you want to discuss in our budget. So please tell us your name first.
Okay, good evening, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Sarah. I'm an Airbnb host community leader, volunteering role. I met the Lord Mayor in a couple of events. Okay, so on behalf of my community, I would like to ask the City of Adelaide one question. As we all be aware, has council make a decision on changing the rate of structure for short-term rental in Adelaide? If yes, please let our community know and provide clear instruction. That's my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We can have questions if you'd like to answer questions, if members would like to directly ask you about your comments. I think we have got it in the draft budget, but the decision won't be made for about another 4 weeks when we finalise the motions. Thank you. Deputy Lord Mayor.
I've got a question. We had a great meeting the other night, and
Yes.
thank you for you and your colleagues for coming along and talking to me. My understanding is part of our communication is there is some concern within the community around the differential between standalone Airbnbs and, of course, what we call
Home owner occupier.
The home occupier, the living host Airbnbs, and the concern of council being able to target the difference between what is primarily residential property, but that perhaps leases out an additional room or a granny flat, etc., and that the standalone property, which is used purely for commercial, perhaps 80% of the year. And so on that, I'll probably leave that for now. I'll come back with a question about notice for administration.
Thank you. I hadn't understood that element of the question. I'm sorry, I didn't clarify. It would not affect someone who were letting out one room in a house.
So my question then, forgive me, Lord Mayor, if I may follow up just through the administration. So we have a guarantee for the host community that if it was an owner-occupier, as you just said, owner-occupier host Airbnb, which is roughly about 50% of Airbnbs in the city, they would not be, in fact, affected by... This
isn't just about Airbnb, it's the short-stay accommodation market.
Yes.
It may be students.
Yes.
International students who are...
So our change from residential to commercial would only affect standalone short-term rentals.
I think it would.
Is that my understanding?
Predominantly, yes, it would.
Okay, thank you.
At the end of the next period of consultation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Is there anybody else in the gallery that would like to comment? Please come forward, sir. Could you identify yourself as well? And you're free to speak for 5 minutes.
Scott Donaldson. Question is, what you say that standalone rentals or short-term rentals are going to be increased by council rates. Is there a percentage of time that short-term rentals must be like 50% of the time if we rent ours out? Do we still get an increase? Or?
As I understand it, we recognise that short-stay accommodation rental isn't full-time because most bookings are less than 80%. So we understand that, but there will be a percentage published when we've finished the consultation.
Okay. So what about people that rent their house out? That is commercial then as well.
Sorry, can you say that again? If they rent their house?
If someone's renting their apartment out to a student or someone here just for a year, isn't that commercial?
No, that's a residential tenancy. This is only going into the short-stay tourism market. So if you rent out to students for a year, that's fine. You'll be at the rate which is 20% less. It's 22% less than a commercial property.
How about if I have someone staying for 1 month or 2 months?
I think there'll have to be some rules about how that's administered. But it seems if you have people staying for shorter periods, there will be a limit.
Through the presiding member, what's intended to be captured by the change in rating policy is a predominant use for Airbnb or short stay accommodation. Quite clearly, that does not include cohabited dwellings, which I think was the matter raised by the previous speaker. If someone owns a house and they rent out a room, they are not intended to be caught. In addressing the definition of predominant use, we're looking at occupancy through short stay arrangements of over 90 days in a year.
Okay, and what is the increase? How much?
Currently, if you own a business or have a commercial property, you pay around 22% more. So if I don't know what sort of property you own, my house is about $2,000 rates a year. So if I were to pay 20% more, that would be about an extra couple of hundred per thousand. So it would be 400 over the course of my house for the year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If you're saying that if you rent it for, say, 90 days or you have a short stay person there for 90 days, are you going to assess the value of the rates based on a full year being rented every single night? Or is it only going to be 90 days of that, that assessment?
Through the presiding member, it would be based on the rental income derived over that period, not a notional full year.
Right, so it could actually be less. So we could actually reduce, because if a commercial rate is 22 above and the normal, say, rental value, annual value method, if somebody's only renting it out for 90 days, they'll actually pay less rates as a result of this policy?
Depends if they start paying commercial or residential rates. Depends on the starting point.
So the application of the commercial rate will be based on the period occupied through short stay arrangements.
Because like when you say like, so a normal rental, just say it's worth $10,000, and they rent it out to one single occupier, and the rental income is 10 grand residential. Commercial would normally be, say, 22 above that, so you'd say 12,000. But if they only rent it out for 90 days, could it be the case? I'm just made it up. No, not rate. I'm saying rental income.
I see.
Yeah, so just a property in the city gets 10 grand worth of income, then it's only rented out for 90 days. Then that could be a massive windfall for the Airbnb market, given that, yes, it might be a per night higher rate, but if their overall rate increase is actually less, are you saying they might save money?
I'm confused by the logic. I think we'll have to take that question on notice because I can't understand it. Are there any other members of the public in the gallery who'd like to ask us questions? No?
Can I ask, are the members of the gallery completely clear on what the Adelaide City Council is proposing? And do you guys feel adequately prepared to answer and comment on the budget around the detail? Do you feel like you've been fully informed about what we've given you?
Hello, good evening. My name is Nicole Donaldson, and we own an apartment in Sturt Street that we rent out short term. And to answer your question, no, I don't. I had no idea about that proposal until I heard from Sarah. My question is, after I heard what you were talking about, is there going to be a differentiation between like commercial I'm like a small business owner, I would say. It's just my own one apartment, as opposed to real estate companies that own and rent out multiple, like dozens of places. Is there going to be a difference?
I think it's a predominant use which is commercial, and there are businesses in the city who, as you say, have lots of properties, and they mostly pay commercial rates. And so this is, in a way, fairness to them as well, because they're paying commercial rates, whereas some people in short-stay accommodation are paying routine residential rates, which are 20% less.
Oh, so they're already paying...
Yeah, they are, yes.
So even if they're not hotels...
No, they're short-stay accommodation, and some of them have complained that there's not an even playing field in that they pay commercial rates, but some people competing against them in the open market pay less. So there is an equity issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of that either. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lord Mayor.
How many people have complained?
Lord Mayor, may I request, may I ask, is there an open session for people that own Airbnbs in the city on how this they can get feedback from administration or yourself in regards to this matter?
Welcome to attend.
But just on Airbnb?
It's not just Airbnb.
But could we do one specifically?
Short stay, we could have.
Oh, okay, short stay,
Yes,
sorry, accommodation.
Yes. I've met most of the short stay operators in terms of the platforms, and we've had long discussions with them. So is there anybody else in the gallery as the time's going on? No? We'll move on to the next item. Can I thank members of the public? We're moving on now to item 13. Now, 13 was chaired, that committee was chaired by Councillor Noon.
Can we vote for that en bloc, Lord Mayor?
I'm sorry?
Can we vote for that en bloc?
I'm sorry, I just can't hear.
Sorry.
En bloc?
Yes.
I'd be happy to take it en bloc. Councillor Noon moved. Councillor Elliott seconded.
Can I ask that 7.6 is taken out?
.6 is out. So we'll just move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 and 8. Councillor Noon's moved. Councillor Elliott seconded. All those in favour? Against, that's carried. Thank you, members. Thank you. 7.6. Councillor Abrahimzadeh.
Just briefly speaking against this, Lord Mayor, not to criticise the work that our staff have done. If anything, the report itself is quite comprehensive, but I won't be supporting the policy because I don't agree with that approach. So.
Going to move it and then vote against it, or are you?
Sorry, Lord Mayor, I should have waited for you to ask for a minute.
Would you like to move it and vote against it? Oh dear, what a pickle. Is someone going to move it? Councillor Noon's going to vote and move it, and Councillor Deputy Lord Mayor's going to second it. Would anybody like to speak against it or further discuss it? Okay. For want of further interest, we'll move it. All those in favour? All those against? That is lost. So we need to have some decision on this. Do you want it to be returned to the committee or?
Yes, please. Yeah, happy to defer to a committee.
Will you just give me a moment to work out how we can move this forward? I suggest that the encroachment policy be referred back to the appropriate committee. Would that be okay?
City Planning, Development and Business Affairs Committee.
So would you, you've spoken already, would someone move this? Moved by Councillor Couros, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Have we got the language right? DBA? Okay, all those in favour? All those against, that's carried. Thank you, members. So that's carried? Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is my report. As you know, we had the Colonel Light ceremony this week in honour of Colonel Light's birthday, and it was held in the council chamber. I tried to move away from eulogising the city's founder and spoke about respecting our past but looking forward and the legacy we wish to leave. I also hosted a nighttime entertainment economy roundtable, which I think was well received and attended by both elected members and staff, as well as industry leaders, for a discussion about the opportunities for a change within the nighttime economy, and also discussed the changing demographics in the sector. I also attended the Anzac Day dawn service, followed by the Australian Light commemoration service, and thank other members of council who represented the city at other events. There were several significant cultural events as well. As many of you know, the Grassi Museum in Leipzig returned some items at a ceremony at Pentlewater and Possum Park in North Adelaide. It was attended by our Foreign Minister Penny Wong, the German Foreign Minister Anna Baerbock, and members of the Ghana community, as well as several councillors. As you would know, the two Lutheran missionaries were responsible for largely saving the Ghana language, but took several items back to Germany in 1840. They were a tantanaku, which is a bark peeler, a wuntu, which is a spear, a wikatia, which is a fishing net, and a cathawiris, which is a sword. They've been at the Grassi Museum stored safely. They were temporarily stored at the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies. Elsewhere, we also hosted the Consul of Italy, Ernesto Pianelli, and the French Ambassador to Australia, Pierre-André Imbert. Finally, I should say that it's been a busy week and I look forward to the next series of consultations. Thank you. Could I ask that someone moves moved by Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Ho. All those in favour, all those against, that's carried. Thank you, members. Would there be any other councillors' reports? Councillor Noon.
I just want to say that I represented the Lord Mayor at the launch of the Illuminate 2024, and they launched their amazing program. So if we actually think that it was actually great in previous years, wait to this year. It's incredible. And anyone says that the events are all just at the beginning of the year, they should reevaluate that, because we actually have Live Golf, we've had Gather Round, we've got Illuminate, we've got Cabaret. It doesn't stop in Adelaide. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elliott.
Very briefly, Lord Mayor, just to indicate that a couple of weeks ago I attended the RAA National Road Safety Week Roundtable. It was an event that was held across government and industry. However, I was the only representative of a local government in South Australia there, which was disappointing, but there were people who did work in various parts of local government in their history. What was discussed at that roundtable during Road Safety Week was motorist behaviours that lead to a large number of crashes, regional road safety, and what's needed to better support active transport. This was a really strong indication to me that our peak motoring bodies, our peak advocacy organisations, from the Freight Council to the RAA themselves who hosted it, are talking very, very strongly about the dire need to significantly improve the conditions for active transport in our city and in our state. And I just want to highlight two key figures before I sit down, Lord Mayor. From 2023, 25% of Adelaide road deaths were cyclists. About 90% of those people were killed by motorists. 44% of road deaths across Adelaide were cyclists and pedestrians combined. Again, the vast majority of them were killed by motorists. This is an incredibly pressing issue, and it is something that has been taken very seriously across industry, and it's time that the City of Adelaide takes some serious action to catch up on where we need to be and where the industry expects us to be.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Davis, do you wish to describe anything you've done?
Yeah, thank you. I was very, very pleased to represent you at two functions, at the two memorial services over the Anzac Day period, and also I attended Anzac Day. And thank you for laying the wreath on behalf of the City of Adelaide.
Thank you very much indeed. So could I ask Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I would like to report that Councillor Noon and I were present at the opening of the History Festival at Piccadilly Cinema, which was a wonderful opening. And I just want to offer my congratulations to the History Trust, former Councillor Greg Mackey and the team worked so hard to put together a wonderful month full of activity. And it was a pleasure to be there representing the Council. And just to also acknowledge, as you have, the very special cultural event of the returning of the 4 significant Ghana artefacts. And it was a pleasure to myself meet very briefly the German Foreign Minister and former Greens leader, Annalena Baerbock. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abrahimzadeh.
Lord Mayor, just a question. None of these events have been put on the agenda. Is there a reason for that?
I think that there's only a regular once a month. One gets the whole attendance at meetings, and
Okay.
but this is just people reporting as we go.
That answers that question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So could someone move noting the Councillor's report? Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Davis. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. So can I just go back into the gallery again and just ask once more if anybody wishes to speak to us? No? We'll move on to the next item then. Could I ask if anyone has any motions without notice? Councillor Abrahimzadeh.
No motion without notice, Lord Mayor, but I've noticed that the questions on notice haven't been responded to. Is there a reason for that?
I'll ask the acting CEO.
Through the presiding member, Councillor Martin is clearly an apology for tonight's meeting. He has requested the withdrawal and re-presentation of both motions on notice and questions on notice.
Including the questions as well?
Yep.
I was under the understanding that if something is printed that it's essentially dealt with. I understand that the motion can be withdrawn, but the question, if it's published in the agenda...
The question has been published.
Yeah, but the response as well, sorry.
The answer has not, and will be presented at the next meeting.
There is an element of the Local Government Act which says a member may ask a question on notice by giving the Chief Executive written notice of the question at least 7 clear days before the date of the meeting at which the question is to be asked. The question and reply must obviously be entered into the minutes, but if the member's not here, I understand.
The question, he's not actually asking the question.
He's not asking the question.
It's on notice. Like,
I'm sorry, that's the advice I've been given.
I just don't think that's true at all.
I think that we can quibble about it, but it's not going to get us anywhere, so we might as well move on.
I do have an issue with it because it seems like, there's this massive leap a lot of the times with these standing orders where, if it's a question, if it's a motion on notice, I get it because the member can't move it. But if someone's asking a question, it's published in the agenda, it should just be published. I can't see why, just because he's not here, it still remains a question and the answer's still the same. I don't see why you can just withdraw it.
He withdrew the questions.
So he formally withdrew the question?
He wrote...
But when did he do that?
Was it today?
That was via email earlier today.
Thank you. You may not approve of it, but it will come back again, I assure you.
We have no doubt.
I do have a question without notice. In relation to Airbnb, there seems to be a lot of confusion about what exactly the rules are. And I'd also be very much interested to know, I think we need to be very clear and actually prepare a statement of what the intended rules are about who's going to be in it, what the length is, how it's going to be calculated. And I'd also like to double check, I suppose, well, that's a statement, but I'd like to ask, when the estimated income figures were put into the budget, was it on the basis that it was that 90-day cap? Was it on the basis that the owner, for example, if they live there, then they wouldn't come under these rules? What was the assumptions made in the budget going forward? And if I might tack on a question, because the administration might need to take it on notice, what's the expected cost of implementing this? And what is the expected staff time every year in following up every single Airbnb in the city? Because are we actually going to lose money?
So I think that might be a question on notice to be brought back. So we'll take that question. Thank you.
But through the presiding member, importantly, on the back of the representations tonight, there will be a fulsome consultation outcomes report that is provided to the council meeting on Tuesday the 11th of June. We've got staff in the room tonight who are engaging with tonight's representors to ensure that we fully capture their questions and your own questions, and that information will all be provided in the consultation outcomes report coming to council on the 11th of June.
Okay.
So thank you for that question.
Yeah, would it be possible through your office to issue because my understanding we don't have a full set of guidelines and regulations around how this is going to work, and fair enough, but at least how far have we gone in the budget to set out what the procedures and regulations would be, and in the budget and the consultation that we've gone out with, and maybe I missed it in the budget, but how detailed are the regulations about who's going to be covered by this?
I think it has to be very detailed before
we close the submissions.
Yeah.
That's my concern, and perhaps
has to be finalised. Then that will happen.
Well, at least the headlines, so that potentially Airbnb hosts are very aware of who's in and who's out and what it's going to do. And then I think I'd suggest
Thank
that
you
the
for that
figures
question.
need to be
Thank you.
realigned.
Final time, if anyone would like to speak to us. We're about to hit 6:38, so it is your last chance. No? I can't induce anyone to come up. Thank you. So now we have to move the motion, which is printed as item 9.1, and we have to change... Sorry?
We don't have to change them. We've had 3 representatives.
Oh, we've had them, haven't we? Yes. So that's the motion. Would someone move that? Yes?
I have an alternative motion, and it just includes a point 2, and that's that an information document be circulated regarding the intended regulations or procedures regarding the increased rates to short stay accommodation.
Thank you. I think that's very clear. Would someone second it? Deputy Lord Mayor has seconded it. It's quite clear. Is there any debate or argument about that? I think everyone's in furious agreement. I'll put that motion...
Just before you do that,
okay.
That an information document be circulated regarding the intended procedures for the rating of short stay.
Thank you. That's improved it. Thank you for picking that. Got it? Happy with that variation?
And obviously that needs to be done pretty quickly.
Quickly, yep, we
because
understand.
the intention is that we could circulate around that community ahead of the close of consultation. Thank you.
Thank you for that motion. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. So we've now completed the elements of the meeting. We have reached beyond 6:38, and I will close the meeting. Thank you very much.
You need to move into conference to keep...
No, because we're doing the question.
It's withdrawn. Sorry. Thank you very much, members, for your